This dude was unbelievable, man. Because he could do everything. I mean, he had no weaknesses.
Tracy Lamar McGrady Jr., born May 24th, 1979. Welcome to the Beautiful Game series on Stunted Growth, where we talk about guys whose basketball game was just an amazing sight to see and deserve to be appreciated and documented. Not every player has a growth stunt or spurt story, but one that still should be told. Today, that guy is none other than Tracy McGrady. As far as natural beauty as a basketball player, it doesn't get much better. Solely focused on eye tests alone, I don't know how you can watch Tmac and not fall in love with the things he did on the court. His game didn't only look amazing, his work showed just how effective an individual could be, and an argument can be made that he was robbed of being the MVP of the league at least one time as the best individual player in the league from 2002 to 2005. He led the league in scoring in back-to-back seasons, joining Allen Iverson, Kobe, Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Joel Embiid as the only to do so since the 2000s. Before there was a 6'11" Kevin Durant that was impossible to block, there was Tracy McGrady. Kobe Bryant, who in my opinion is a top 5 NBA player of all time, called Tracy McGrady his toughest matchup ever. He said that Tmac had all the skills, plus he was athletic, and to top it off, he was 6'9", but moved like he was 6'3". There's nothing he couldn't do if he wanted to on the court, even though most times he chose to simply get buckets. In Bryant's own words, he could do everything I could, but he was taller. Kobe himself benefited from coming straight to the NBA from high school to a team like the Lakers, known for winning championships, being a serious franchise who had plans for Kobe being the face of their next generation since day one. He also had Shaquille O'Neal, another top 10 NBA player and most physically dominant I've ever seen, which helped him win 3 championships back to back to back and another 2 championships after Shaq left. He sailed off into glory with the greatest final game performance, celebration, and speech ever in the league. So for him, his conditions were perfect. Tracy McGrady didn't have those luxuries and also dealt with much more serious injuries in the prime of his career. So he never won an NBA championship and never even led a team past the first round of the playoffs in his prime as the man for Orlando nor the Houston Rockets. Nevertheless, he was one of the greatest players of his generation, one of the most talented athletes all around the game has ever seen, and you have to admit, when it comes to enjoying the grace and balance of the game from an individual perspective, Tracy McGrady's game was absolutely beautiful for these reasons. Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. Made the game look so easy. We spoke about natural hoopers versus manufactured hoopers before, and nothing's wrong with being a gym rat who wasn't naturally as blessed, so you put in the work to catch up to the guys who were. An argument can be made that was Michael Jordan and even Kobe Bryant. Yes, they were natural hoopers, but in my opinion, more work than God-given. Tracy McGrady was the exact opposite. This is why he gave defenders so much trouble. While they needed every step to fall into place on the court, he could wake up out his sleep and drop 30+ points like none other. Speaking of sleep, in any other case, you'd grow angry watching a player look like he gave no effort and was sleepwalking on plays, but with McGrady, it added to his total package to look like he wasn't even fully awake in the face and body, creating a certain deception against the defense, and before you know it, he was striding right by you or rising up right in front of your frozen body for his patented hesitation pull-up. The slowest, quickest ball player I've ever seen. It's like when God created Tmac, he was experimenting with a mix of all the things that could make you feel a player isn't trying, but then you look up and he has 40, 50 points and a few highlight dunks that demoralizes his opponent. As mentioned, he wasn't fortunate to have an ideal start to his pro career, being added to an expansion team 3 years into its existence, who were expected to lose for a while, who then drafted Vince Carter and allowed a young Tracy McGrady to walk. He didn't play with another bona fide superstar player until his 8th season in the league, and both he and Yao Ming were dealing with injuries by then that capped their potential of winning together in the tough 2000s to a minimum. Before Tracy, there really was nothing like him, and he did it with a smooth grace that made him instantly a one of one, even though it took him a while to finally find his all-star stride. He came into the league at 18 years old, and by 20 he was top 5 in most improved players, going from 9 points per game to 15 points per game and a top 3 six-man of the year. Yes, Tmac could do everything, but the most beautiful part of his game was how easy and graceful he made the game look, contributing to making him one of the most beautiful players to watch of all time. Leaving Toronto for Orlando. The greatest gift you can give a basketball player is opportunity. Getting one that's ideal can bring out a side of your game that not even you may have knew existed. It presents a comfortability that's priceless when talking about a contact competitive sport like basketball. Tracy McGrady, if you didn't already know, signed with the Orlando Magic after the 2000 season, realizing in Toronto there was a new star at his position that was on his way to becoming the face of the Raptors and eventual Hall of Famer in his cousin Vince Carter. Vince was in his second year in 99-2000 and already an all-star. At that point, Tracy McGrady knew he had what it took to be as well, but it likely wasn't going to be alongside Carter. His first season in Orlando was spectacular, improving by over 11 points per game, improving his rebounding, assists, three-point percentage, and minutes played. Speaking of on-court time, McGrady had all in the world immediately with the Magic, finally in the driver's seat of his own franchise. At a point, he was ready enough to lead. He became an MVP candidate over the next 4 seasons and made 4 All-Star appearances in a row. In my personal opinion, it was the best Tmac we'd ever get to see. As a basketball fan, his matchups with the Lakers and Kobe were some of the best in-game one-on-one basketball ever, even though the Mamba overall came out on top. But let Kobe tell it himself.
The guy that always gave me the most problems actually was Tracy McGrady. He had all the skill, but he was 6'9".
Sadly, the ride in Orlando didn't last long, as the team wasn't improving past the first round under Mac's leadership, and his final season there they missed the playoffs entirely. Not to mention the relationship with Orlando's new general manager beginning to implode as Tracy began feeling he wasn't wanted, leading to him requesting a trade. He came to Orlando at 21 years old and left at 24. Those 3 years were some of the most magical individual performances, where he averaged 2 of his career highs in scoring and had one of the best scoring seasons ever, averaging over 32 points per game in 02-03 and a career high 62 points against the Wizards in 04, all because he had the opportunity to. Smooth driver and beautiful shooter. 2 of the most beautiful elements of Tracy McGrady's game was seeing him slither through the lane at 6'9", but moving like he was 6'3", and his buttery jump shot that in my opinion was the smoothest jump shot of all time. He had everything you would want from a franchise player. He was simply box office. As far as skill and natural talent, McGrady had just as much as anyone. His handles were playground-esque, where even at his height he couldn't be stopped getting to the rim if he wanted to. I think the reasons it got so many defenders is because you didn't expect him to move that way. Add to that, his size made it to where his strides were much bigger, making his first step almost unguardable. Being a point guard growing up before he hit his growth spurt, he understood how to attack smaller players by being deliberate with his dribble moves, and on guys close to his size, he surprised them with his deceptive handling and ability to move like a guard. If that didn't work, he just rose and pulled up from deep, and mid-range it was lights out from any angle. At the time, he was one of the few at that size moving and shooting like he was, giving him an advantage as well. Don't get me wrong, Tracy McGrady had the entire package, not just driving and shooting beauty, but also a post game and a skilled athletic finisher to polish it off. He carried that on to the Rockets beginning in 04-05, but due to injuries between he and Yao Ming, the team underachieved, and it's the biggest criticism of Tracy's career. That aside, watching his performances was like watching one of the best individual players ever from a shooting and driving standpoint. All in all, there were none like him before, and although there has been comparisons since like Paul George, Brandon Miller, and a few others, None can replicate the beauty he played with as a basketball player. Smooth as ever meets skill, meets competitiveness and showmanship. He may not have won enough, but for these reasons, his game was definitely beautiful. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.